A birthday card sits open on a kitchen table. A $200 check tucked inside it, still creased from the envelope. Renee reaches for a deposit slip. It's the same motion she's made with birthday money. For almost 30 years. Check in. Savings account. Done. Across the table, her son Malik reaches for his phone instead. He's about to put that same $200 into a brokerage account before dinner is even on the stove. Same amount, same day, same kitchen. Two completely different instincts, and neither one of them thinks twice about which instinct is normal. That's the whole story, right there, before a single dollar actually moves. I'm Jack, and if I were starting to invest in 2026, this is the exact thing I'd get suspicious of first. Not the market, not the account balance, the instinct. Because most investing advice starts at the wrong place. It starts with what to buy. This video starts one step earlier, with why most people can't bring themselves to buy anything at all. And once you understand that, the rest gets surprisingly simple. Rewind Renee to 2009, 23 years old, watching coworkers get laid off, watching the news call the stock market a casino for 2 straight years. She never lost money in that crash. She never had money in the market to lose. But she learned the lesson anyway. The market is where careful people get hurt. That belief cost her nothing to form. And it turns out, everything to keep. Economists Ulrike Malmendier and Stefan Nagel studied this directly. Their research found that people who lived through weak markets early in life carry measurably less financial risk-taking for decades afterward, even long after their income and circumstances recover. The scar outlives the wound. Renee earned her caution the hard way. Malik inherited it for free, and he's paying for it anyway, in the only currency that matters here: time. Nobody sat Malik down and told him not to invest. Nobody had to. Financial media ran 15 years of collapse footage. After 2008, most households still never had a real conversation about how index investing actually works, versus stock picking, versus day trading. It all gets flattened into one word: the market, standing in for wildly different levels of risk. Call it the caution inheritance, a risk tolerance you didn't earn, handed to you by someone who did, whether or not the conditions that created it still apply to your life at all. The first mental shift, before you open a single account, is asking yourself honestly, is my hesitation a risk assessment, or is it a story I inherited before I was old enough to check its math? Here's what makes this more complicated. Even people who recognize the inherited story, even people who intellectually know they should start investing, still don't. And the reason isn't laziness. It's neuroscience. Your brain has a built-in preference for immediate rewards over future ones. Psychologists call it present bias. When you're choosing between doing something that feels good right now and doing something that benefits you in 30 years, the future version of you has almost no lobbying power in that decision. Think about it this way. Every time you manually decide to move money into an investment account, you're activating the same neural circuit that weighs a coffee right now against your retirement in 2055. The coffee is concrete. The retirement is abstract. And in that fight, the future almost always loses. This is why the standard advice, just start, even with $50, is incomplete. It treats investing as an information problem, when it's actually a brain architecture problem. The second mental shift is understanding that willpower is the wrong tool for this job. The people who invest consistently don't have stronger willpower than you. They've removed the decision entirely. Automation isn't a productivity hack. It's a neurological workaround. When a transfer leaves your account, the morning after every paycheck, before you've seen it, touched it, or had a chance to weigh it against anything else, your present biased brain never gets a vote. The decision was made by a calmer version of you weeks ago, and it just quietly executes. Set up the transfer once. Then the hardest behavioral problem in personal finance solves itself. On the 1st and the 15th. Forever. Without consulting your emotions once. Now let's talk about the fear underneath all of this. Because even people who automate contributions will stop them the moment the market drops. And understanding why is the third mental shift. Psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky identified something called loss aversion. The finding that losing $1,000 feels roughly twice as painful as gaining $1,000 feels good. Not a little worse, twice as bad. The pain of loss is asymmetric. This isn't a character flaw. It's a survival mechanism that served humans well for 200,000 years. In a world where losing resources could mean death, the brain learned to weight losses heavily. That wiring saved your ancestors. In financial markets, it quietly destroys your returns. Here's what loss aversion actually looks like in practice. The market drops 20%. You feel a physical pull to do something, to sell, to move to cash, to stop the bleeding. That feeling is real, and it is powerful. And the data shows that millions of people act on it, every single cycle, at precisely the wrong moment. The days of the biggest market rebounds, the days that account for the majority of your long-run returns, cluster right next to the worst days. The emotional peak of a crash, the moment selling feels most urgent and most responsible, is statistically the moment before the recovery begins. Knowing this doesn't make the feeling go away, but it changes what the feeling means. When you feel the pull to sell during a downturn, that's not your rational brain giving you a signal. That's your evolutionary wiring, doing what it was designed to do, in an environment it was never designed for. The third mental shift is treating that feeling as data about your biology, not data about the market. Write it somewhere, you'll see it when the crash comes. And it will come. This feeling is my brain doing its job. The job it has in 2026 is to stay in the account and do nothing. There's one more psychological trap worth naming, because it looks like diligence, and it isn't. When people are anxious about money, doing more feels like managing the anxiety. More research, more tabs open, more YouTube videos about the perfect asset allocation. A portfolio of 14 funds. That no one, including the person who built it, can explain. This isn't stupidity. It's the mind trying to create a sense of control in a domain that feels out of control. Complexity mimics competence. It feels like you're taking the situation seriously. But here's what the data actually shows. The more actively most people manage their investments, the worse their returns. A research firm called Dalbar has tracked this for decades. In 2024, the S&P 500 returned just over 25%. The average equity investor earned 16.5%. That 8.5% gap wasn't caused by bad funds or high fees. It was caused by behavior, by people doing too much. The fourth mental shift is learning to tolerate the discomfort of simplicity. A single low-cost index fund that you never touch will outperform the elaborate portfolio you're constantly adjusting. Not despite the fact that you're not doing anything, but because of it. Inactivity feels irresponsible. It isn't. For most investors, it is the highest return decision available to them, and the hardest one to make, because it offers no feeling of control at all. Your portfolio is the one area of life where neglect is a strategy. So let's make this concrete, because every mental shift in this video will be tested, probably more than once. And the test always comes at 2 a.m., when the market is down 30%, and your phone screen is red, and nothing feels abstract anymore. Here's the protocol. And the reason I'm calling it a protocol instead of advice is that you need to decide this now, while you are calm, because you will not be capable of deciding it then. When the crash comes, and given where market valuations sit right now in 2026, one may come sooner than people expect. You do not change the automatic transfer. You do not check the account daily. You do not watch anyone on the internet. Explain why this time is different. Instead, you use what psychologists call a pre-commitment device. This is a decision you make in advance. That constrains your future self. Write a note. Physical paper. Somewhere you'll find it. That says, when this feels most urgent, I have already decided. I do nothing on purpose. That note is the highest paid sentence you will ever write, because the investors who get destroyed in crashes are almost never the ones who held. They're the ones who left and missed the recovery. Present you, calm and clear-headed, is the only version of you equipped to make this decision. Future you, at 2 a.m. with sweaty hands, needs to borrow that clarity. Write it down and lend it to them. So here's the two of them again. Same kitchen table. 15 years later. Renee at 69. At peace with the choices she made, because she finally understands why she made them. Malik at 39. Either sitting on a portfolio that has been quietly compounding since he was 24, or still telling himself he'll start once things feel more stable. Same table, same two people, very different financial lives, separated not by intelligence, not by income, not by access to information, but by 4 mental shifts that nobody ever put in front of either of them. 1. Recognizing whether your hesitation is a risk assessment or an inherited story. 2. Understanding that willpower isn't the right tool. Automation is. 3. Knowing that the urge to sell in a crash is your biology, not your judgment. 4. Learning that simplicity isn't laziness. In investing, it's the actual strategy. If you want the tactical how, which accounts to open, which funds to buy, in what order. That knowledge is genuinely easy to find, and I'll link a thorough guide in the description. But tactics without these 4 shifts are just information, sitting in front of someone who still isn't ready to act. The money was never the block. Now you know what actually was. Before you go, I want to ask you something, and I genuinely want to know your answer. Which one of these 4 shifts hit closest to home for you? Was it the inherited story you never chose? The present bias you didn't have a name for? The moment you realized your cell instinct wasn't judgment. It was biology. Or the permission to stop doing so much? Drop it in the comments. 1 word, 1 sentence, whatever. Because the most valuable thing that can happen in this comment section is that someone who's been sitting at Malik's kitchen table for 5 years, reads your answer, and finally decides to move. If this video said something that a person in your life needed to hear, someone who keeps saying they'll start investing when things feel more stable, share it with them. Not because it will make them rich overnight, because it might be the thing. That finally makes the story feel less true. And if you want more videos that start with the psychology before the tactics, hit subscribe. That's exactly what this channel is built around. The next video goes even deeper. On one of the 4 shifts we covered today. You won't want to miss it. This video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute personalized financial advice. All investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. Past performance does not guarantee future results.